Welcome to the Health Coach Nation podcast. My name is Hailey Rowe, and I'm a sales and marketing coach and LinkedIn lead generation service provider. I work with health, life, and mindset coaches and online service-based business owners to help them get more sales, shift their time to the client-generating activities instead of just the busy work, and overcome that social media overwhelm. Let's get into the show. Hey there, the podcast you're about to hear, I am promoting a live class at the end that already happened. So if you hear that and you're like, well, I missed out on that, you can check it out at haileyrowe.com/client-attraction and get the replay. But other than that, we're going to be digging into a very common topic I hear about, which is I'm afraid of overpromising and under-delivering when it comes to my marketing language and articulating what I do. I want to obviously communicate the benefits, but I don't want to overstep my boundaries. I don't want to miscommunicate. And so we're talking about how do you deliver your message in a compelling way, but also not dig yourself into a hole of missetting expectations. So enjoy, and I'll talk to you soon. So if you have marketed your business online before, chances are you might struggle with sharing the benefits of what you do and how you do it in a way that's like you're trying to be markety. Like I think a lot of people hear, oh, you got to promote the benefits, the transformation you provide, the dream outcomes, the pain points. You have to do it in a way that differentiates yourself. And so I think a lot of people get really scared and tripped up about this process of how do I communicate in a compelling way what I do, but they also have this fear of like, but I don't want to, obviously, like every client's different, every client's starting at a different place, every client will get maybe different results based on where they're starting from, and so you have this fear of like miscommunicating in your marketing and misarticulating what you do, and have this fear of over-promising and under-delivering. And I was actually coaching a client on this today because she has a lot of skills and talents and a lot of things she wants to do with clients, but she's not sure how to articulate and tie it all in together in a way that is compelling, but also, she doesn't want to, there's other things that she doesn't do, and she wants to make sure she doesn't miscommunicate about what's included in her services and what's not. So we were talking about this, and I wanted to take you through a process I kind of took her through to determine how to better communicate and make sure that, over-promising, under-delivering is a thing of the past or something that you don't fall into or, that kind of thing. So the first thing is to ask yourself, how do you define over-delivering and under-delivering in your business? So when it comes to your service, what would over-delivering look like? And what this client told me was, well, my client would be happy, they would be enjoying the process, they would be saving time, they would be doing, getting these results, things like that. And what I told her was about half of what you just told me is within your control. And then the other half, some of it's not in your control. So the parts that are within your control is you can help them, measure these certain metrics to make sure they're saving this much time, and you can help them save this much time with how you deliver, blah, blah, blah. And so like the time piece was in her control and things like that. But then she says vague things like they're getting value. Well, they're getting value is going to look different for every client. So making sure in your communication process, you understand how they define value, you understand what kind of things they want and, need each week to determine coaching is valuable. So a lot of that you have to dig deeper on. So that was the first thing, is define how you are defining over delivering and ask yourself what within that definition is in my control and things I can incorporate into my offer to make sure it's really good. And what from it also needs to be clearly communicated to the client so they know their part in this and they know how they can have great results, So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is ask yourself, do I want to change my definition of how I define what is under delivery and over delivery? Because if your over delivery, like definition is something that's all related to the client needing to be a certain way and nothing related to what you can do, then you may want to reevaluate, because otherwise you're always going to be relying on, I have to have the perfect kind of client who, follows all these criteria. And that may be true. And there may be some things that you write down that you want to require a client to meet a certain criteria so they get the best results from your program. And that's totally valid. But then there's also things you can do on the offer side of things that will improve your offer and help the client better. So that's the first thing, is just offer improvement, seeing where you can improve it, seeing where you may want to qualify, like certain people, they have to have certain qualifications to get the best results from your program. That's the first piece. That's just logistically, let's look at, are there things you need with your offer to make sure that, someone's the right fit. The second thing to avoid overpromising and under-delivering is making sure that you have like a who is this for and who is this not for kind of list on your sales page. And also making sure that before your sales call or your sales process, you communicate what it is you do and the benefits you provide. But then on the call, you also need to make sure that you're explaining like what part of your offer you're doing versus what is the client doing. Are they responsible for certain things? Like, do they have to check in with you? Do they have to show up to the calls? Like, making sure you're clear on that so that there's no confusion about, oh, I thought you were just going to do everything for me, or I thought you were going to blah, 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 right? So making sure that that discovery call process is clear is another way to avoid miscommunication. And then my third tip is making sure that you are allowed, so write down all the things you feel really confident that you can help a client with or that you could deliver on. And then write down a list of all the things that you're worried about that you feel like you can't deliver on or that you aren't qualified to do at this stage or that, is not in your wheelhouse. And then what I want you to do is look at both lists and focus on what you can do, of course. But then for the things you cannot do, you either need to incorporate that, again, going back to the who is this for, who is this not for list on your website. You could say, this is not for you if you're looking for insert services you don't actually do, right? So you can incorporate it there. But you can also, if it's on your list of things you can't do that you think people will want you to do or that you want to add into your offer later or something, ask yourself, how can I get qualified in order to do those things? How can I go get practice at this? How can I go try it myself? How can I go do this for someone else for free or something so that later I can add it to my offer? So either decide you want to add it or decide this is just out of my wheelhouse. This is not my zone of genius. And I want to have maybe a referral partner when somebody needs that I could refer out, and this is just not my thing. And that's fine, right? So that's the other thing, is deciding what you do and what you're good at and what you're not. And for me, when I first started my business, so I'm just going to back up for a second and go on a little tangent. I think that in this field of coaching and services and all that kind of stuff, there's always like good eggs and bad eggs. There's people who ruin it for everyone else and don't have integrity and, use bro marketing language all the time, and it just kind of like floods, it kind of makes fuzzy the industry for everyone else. And for me personally, I worked in business development and marketing for startups that were in like the personal development field before I started working individually with clients. And I also got a bachelor's in entrepreneurship, and then I had also done a couple different sales jobs and sales internships and things like that to get experience in sales and marketing. Now, did I say in my messaging when I first started my business that I could help people grow an 8-figure business and, manage their whole team and do XYZ? No, because I didn't at the time have experience in that. What was my wheelhouse was I understood sales and marketing because I had done that internally for companies like a coaching certification company, like a wellness company, things like that. I had taken sales calls for a high ticket coach. So I was more focused on just the sales and marketing pieces and saying I help with those kinds of things. But I also didn't say results I couldn't deliver yet. So in the beginning of my business, I did not say I help you book clients. That came later when I had clients who were doing that and we were doing that together and I was helping them with that and I had done a beta program and blah, blah, blah. At the beginning, I said, I help you with your time management habits, your confidence to show up online visibly, like things that I actually really knew how to do and was doing myself and had done when I was working in the startups and things like that, that were better suited, and they were tied to sales. They were tied to helping you. Obviously, if you show up on video more or you manage your time better and stop procrastinating and do your client generating activities, those things do lead to more sales. But that wasn't like the main thing in the beginning because I wanted to evolve. So you are allowed to evolve your message. You're allowed to have a good message still. It was still something people wanted. They really were struggling with procrastinating and their time management and what do I focus on and overwhelm. And later it became a little more markety, a little more, focused on what I do now. So that is okay to evolve your message. That's my next thing. To avoid overpromising and under-delivering, start with a message you can deliver on, and then keep growing it as you keep helping more clients, you gain more confidence. The last thing I'll say about that is if you feel like you need to get more experience, you can run a beta program. You can do test programs. You can do free sessions or take someone through something. So if you need to do that, then sometimes you need to do that. And I think some people want to skip that part, or we hear all about passive income all the time and how you should just be able to, wake up to sales in your inboxes. And I don't believe any of that, but I will say it does get easier with time. And I will say that, the people who are willing to, go to the worst case scenario, this is my last tip. Go to the worst case scenario. Pretend that you do bring on a client and you do end up under-delivering in your definition of under-delivering. If that were to happen, what could you do to make sure that you correct that? You have options. That's the other thing. I think sometimes in our brains, we have to go to the worst case scenario and play it out and realize we are capable of figuring it out. So worst case scenario is goes really bad, you give them a refund. Or worst case scenario goes really bad and you hire someone on your own watch and your own dime to correct the situation and make it better for them. Obviously, most of the time, 99.9% of the time, this won't happen. You'll do a great job. But if something were to happen for some reason, you have the capacity to deliver good customer service and figure it out. If you go to a restaurant and they get your order wrong or something, they usually aim to make up for it. And it doesn't make it right, it doesn't make it better always, but my point is, if you're letting this fear suffocate you, I want you to actually go to worst case scenario and realize that most likely it won't happen. Second choice is to come up with decisions of how you could navigate it if it did. And third thing is ask yourself beforehand, plan, how can I prevent that from happening, and start incorporating that into your offer and your marketing to make sure it's clear, that kind of thing. So if you have questions about this topic, let me know, but it was a really good coaching topic, and I thought it would apply to a lot of people who are starting their businesses or in those phases where they're refining their offer and things like that, learning how to articulate what they do in a way that's compelling, but you also want to make sure it's clear and not over-promising. So hopefully this helps. And for those of you who are also seeing this and you want to dig a little deeper on how do you communicate your message, how do you attract clients, I'm going to be going into that on Thursday this week, April 18th, 2024. And it's going to be 4 steps of client attraction without the social media overwhelm holding you back. And we're going to talk a little bit about how before your sale process, you give value up front. Do you create that trust and make sure that also you're communicating clearly so that when you sell, there's not confusion about what you do and what you don't do and all that kind of stuff. So it'll be on Thursday. The link's in my bio. If you want the link directly, you can comment live here. If you missed this at the time and you're hearing this replay a long time later, just let me know. Chances are I'll have a replay at some point. So thanks so much, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks so much for listening to this podcast, and if it's really helpful for you, I'd really appreciate if you share it and or leave a written podcast review. This tells the podcast sites that our show is useful and it will be promoted to more people that way. Thanks again.